This podcast is brought to you by Steede Motor Group, Claregalway. For your personalised vehicle shopping experience, find out more at steedemotorgroup.ie.
So delighted now to be joined by St Michael's senior footballer Eddie Hoare to look at the action this weekend in the senior and the intermediate football championship. Eddie, as a Michael's player, how do you look at this weekend? You could be advancing to the knockout stages, you could be safe, or you could end up in relegation.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, the second result last weekend or 2 weeks ago was good for us. That Dunmore went and bet Hume, so it leaves us quite live in terms of, like you touched on, we can progress to preliminary quarter final, but equally we can find ourselves in relegation. So an unusual occurrence. But next year the new structure will have, I think, 16 teams in it as opposed to the 17, which will be a lot more clear in terms of 4 groups of 4. It'll be easier for teams. It is difficult having a week off, having to wait and see, difficult to prepare for, but ultimately we just have to concentrate on getting our house in order, and we know we'll be playing in irrespective of the outcomes this weekend. We will have another game in the championship, which is good, and be it either a preliminary quarter final or relegation, we have to be ready for either.
Can you look at this weekend, keep an eye on it, or do you just forget about it?
No, I'd say definitely players and management will be keeping a close eye on it. Obviously, there's various different results that we'll be looking for ourselves. We'll be looking for Claregalway to beat Dunmore, and for Montbellew to beat Tuam as well. And if them results go like that, we will be in a preliminary quarter final, most likely against the third place team in Group 1. So it'll be an interesting dynamic, but definitely we'll be keeping a close eye on it, and keeping a close eye on all games, because you just don't know who you might meet later on in the championship.
It was a really noticeable factor this year, particularly in that game you played against Claregalway. It's a very young team. What Michael's at the minute?
Yeah, I was impressed with Claregalway. We started quite well. They came into the game as a young team. Claregalway last year, I found they were very young. They obviously went with youth, and they definitely, I felt they improved a lot on last year, to be fair. They're very strong in the physicality of them has improved, their work rate. They're a good team. I think it'll take a good team to beat Claregalway and knock them out of the championship. They've been knocking on the door for a few years. Nearly bet my Cullen last year. I was impressed with them. I thought they were good. And to be fair, look, you'd come out of some games saying you could have won, or you're not sure where we're at. I would have thought Claregalway were probably the better team last Sunday. But look, that said, if a few things went our way, it could have been different, but they were impressive now, to be fair, and have definitely built on the progress that they would have made last year.
Just on that 5-team group, it definitely does seem like it's more difficult, because even if you're looking compared to the 16 group, the third place already, they're not going to finish as one of the high placed third teams. That's obviously going to be Milltown or James's this weekend, but yeah, they definitely are at a bit of a disadvantage with a 5-team group.
I think so, yeah. Well, I'd look at Tuam, for example. They had a bye in the first week, and then they faced Claregalway. Could have beaten Claregalway, didn't beat them, and all of a sudden after 2 weekends they have no points and need a result against us in Ballinasloe. They get a draw, and then they're on the back foot straight away. You know, us then, on the other hand, we're sitting on the last week, and okay, as it happens, it's not the case, but it could be the case whereby a draw might suit 2 teams and they could play for a draw. And we're sitting in limbo with having no ability to, I suppose, influence that scenario. So it is a difficult dynamic, but ultimately, I suppose, yeah, each team obviously has a free weekend. The 16-team senior championship is what Congress had looked for, and over the course of the last 3 years, the county board have looked to whittle it down, and have done. It brings with it a lot of pressure for teams as well. This year, there's obviously 2 going down, and it'll be challenging of whoever the 5 teams to go into the relegation. Obviously, 1 team will have an opportunity not to go into it, but a round robin of 4 teams with winter weather is not a place you want to be, and with 2 teams going down, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, every team looking to avoid that. Just if we get into the action in the group you're involved in yourselves in Group 3, you have two games there this weekend. So obviously a lot of the games take place at the same time, just so it makes it fair for each team. So Dunmore play Claregalway and Dublin Park at 3:30, and at the same time Montbelly play Tunes um, in Tunes Stadium at 3:30. Dunmore Claregalway is probably one of the games of the weekend. This weekend, Claregalway coming into this one, as you mentioned, on huge form, really impressive against Michaels. Then it's this case of, can they break down this Dunmore system?
Yeah, Dunmore have, to be fair, have improved week on week since they've come up. They obviously played ourselves in the first round. We got a late goal to beat them, but look, for their first taste of senior football, they were impressive. They showed up, they performed. Next day out, then again against Montbellier, probably very unlucky not to come away with a win, and up the performance again against Doom. And they'll be probably, I'd expect themselves as a team will be expecting a big performance against Claregalway. I think Banlaslow as a venue will probably suit Dunmore more than Claregalway. Claregalway will probably play more of their games, I'd expect, in Doom rather than Banlaslow. But that said, no, it has the makings of being a very interesting game. Two young teams. Dunmore obviously integrated quite well up through the under-20s as well, and have done well at underage, doing well at colleges, and equally Claregalway too. So it'll be an interesting test for both sides.
What have you seen Dunmore improve on most since he played them in the opening round?
In terms of, look, the opening round, obviously it's a big opportunity for them to come in up to senior, and probably took a while to settle into our game. They've obviously have really good footballers. They have a nice young side. They're moving the ball quite well. Gleeson in goal is a top keeper. So and Thomas Gleeson, I think, in the middle of the field has been very, very good and grown into the senior championship. And up front, the half forwards, Costello has been very, very good as well. So I'd say the confidence has grown that they've come up, they've made the step up, and they've, I suppose, realised quite quickly that they're a very competitive senior team and well able to compete with the top teams. And they would have taken great confidence from the Montbellier game. They should have won that. They were unlucky. I think Colin Ryan equalised for Montbellier to take a point, and then that was shown in Tuam again. That they brought that confidence, that confidence to Tuam, and were deserved winners in the end.
It's really huge here for whoever wins, because they potentially do end up really as a second place, and straight into the quarterfinals. But on Claregalway, you mentioned they're building, but one thing they're building this year is really their inside line. You could even see it against yourselves of Rowan, Granger, and Flaherty. Like, they pose so many threats.
Yeah, they certainly do. I was very, very impressed with Nathan Granger. I think he's improved a lot. Really good player. I think, from what I could see from when we played them last year versus this year, the year he's had in with the Galway panel has stood to him. He was very, very busy, very involved in most of what was good about their attack. Mark Rowan is in a really good run of form, and then the dynamic with Flaherty inside at full is a good foil for the two guys. And while against us, maybe Connor wasn't as effective as he would have been in previous games, he's still a really big target man there, and occupies a full back, and maybe allows the two guys to work as a foil off him, and it works quite well, and it's hard to defend.
As well, they're relying on this deep runs from O'Callaghan and Jason Riley, really from deep. It's probably that running game that they really seem to have developed in the last 12 months, that they're really running out from deep and threats from all angles.
Yeah, they have. They look fit. They look well conditioned, and I touched on that previously. They have Danny Cummins to come off the bench. He came on against us and kicked a score. He's a big impact to come on. I think Tivoli, it was 6 last year for them. He came on as well, I think, and he's a good impact to have off the bench, who'd normally be a starter but coming back from injury. So again, they're building a little bit of depth, little bit of depth in their squad, which is important. Yeah, but they do run from deep. They're, like I said, they're very fit and conditioned, and they're playing to a good game plan, a game plan that seems to suit them. They work it up the pitch. They have runners, and they move it into the inside line. Their inside line is moving well. One area I would sort of think next weekend is in the midfield quarter. I felt Conal Gallagher was very, very impressive for us 2 weeks ago. I expect he most likely be involved with the inter-county seniors next year. I think he's ready to make that step, but he was really, really impressive for us, I thought, in the midfield quarter, the midfield third, and that's probably an area that Dunmore will be looking to target. Now, I know Claregalway have got a lot of scores from their midfield sector. I think they got 2 goals against June. The midfielder did score 2 goals, so they have scores in it, but the primary possession is a big area. Gleeson has been very good for Dunmore, and it's an area that I'd expect Dunmore will try to get some change out of, and if they can get enough ball into Costello, he's effective too. So it's an important sector in around that middle third, because they've 2 busy inside lines, and whoever wins the majority possession will obviously be creating a lot of chances for the inside lines. But that said, I do think on balance, I think maybe Galway, I'd be thinking probably just have more of an all-round 15 and a stronger bench. But that said, I wouldn't rule out Dunmore either, but if I was to predict, I'd be saying for Claregalway to win. And this weekend, being a Michael's man, I'd be hoping for a Claregalway win.
Are Claregalway one of the teams this year? Because obviously there's been a lot of talk, even with the power rankings and different stuff we've done, about the top 3 at the minute in the senior championship. But are they one of these teams that can nearly break into the last 4 this year, do you feel?
I think of the chasing pack, obviously, like you said, you have the 2 or the 3. You have your Mycolin, Montbellew, Corofin. Maybe I would have probably had Salthill in the top 4. They'll be disappointed with the result against Barna and have yet to probably hit top form yet, but they might do. It's early yet. But of the teams in the chase and pack, I do think I think Claregalway could beat a big team. Like I said, I think it'll take a good team to beat Claregalway in knockout football, and they're building nicely. Their injury lads coming back from injuries, like Mark Rowan is there. He's in a really good run of form, like I touched on the guys. It'll take a good team to beat them, and they won't fear any opposition. They nearly beat Mycolin last year. Mycolin won the county title and obviously won the Connacht, so they'll take good confidence from that. They've built on it. The similar management structure in place as well, which shows a continuity there as well, which is always good to see. And I just think they look to be in a good place.
On that other game then, between Montbellew, Mylon and Tuesdays. Montbellew, Mylon obviously had that week off in the last round. And then their last game was that draw against Dunmore McHale's. But yourselves, you played Montbellew and you seem to struggle a bit, registered 1-1. Were you impressed with them, seeing them up front?
I was impressed with them. I thought they were well organised. We played them earlier in the league, and I felt they looked like a team that were having a right go this year. They seem to have all their players back. It's great to see Michael Daly back talking and playing well. That'll give good confidence to them. But they seem to have all their guys back. It's like they're giving it one right good push this year. I was impressed with them when we played them in the league. I think we drew with them out there. They were good that evening, but when we played them in the championship, they looked very well organised. John Daly was integrating between 11 and 6 and was busy. Owen Finnerty, I know he had a knock earlier in the year, but is probably going to grow as the championship goes on. I'd say the same for Michael Daly, who's been out for the last 12 to 18 months. So again, he's going to grow game on game. So again, I was impressed with them. I thought they were well organised and were impressive against us. But that said, they'll be disappointed with their performance against Dunmore. They would have expected, I'm sure, to build on the win against us. They were impressive too against Claregalway in the first round. So look, on 5 points, probably full value for their 5 points. I expect they'll win this weekend. Tuam, I think, have been very unlucky. Just the way, touching back on the 5-team group, the way it's fallen when you're sort of off a week, you're all of a sudden under a lot of pressure, and they were. They could have gone and beaten us. They could have lost to us in the third round, but it was a must-win game for them. Whereas other teams had the safety net of maybe being able to have an off day as the championship wore on. They ultimately went in, you could say, having missed the first round as a bye, they went into knockout championship football from the out, right from the off, and definitely against us, because having lost with Claregalway, they were basically knockout, and that can be difficult. And on the other hand, then you have Moore, who were growing into the championship, having sort of probably played us in the first round, was a daunting first day back in senior, and then sort of grew with confidence. Whereas on the other hand, Tuam the pressure was growing around them that they had to get a win, which was difficult for them. So again, they're faced now with Montbellew, who's again a very difficult task. They'll be looking to bounce back, having been probably disappointed to lose to Dunmore. Would have been expected to win that game in June. But Montbellew again 2 weeks off, or have 4 weeks off, and will be, I'd say, ready and chomping at the bit to go out and put down a marker before they hit the full knockout and go to 7 points and top the group.
Really seems like Montbellew are going to be buzzing this weekend for this one, but it does feel like a perfect game. It's like Tuam fighting for their lives this weekend to avoid relegation, and with some hope trying to progress. But it does kind of seem very unlikely that it's going to happen for Tuam to reach the knockout stages at the weekend. But this just does seem like the perfect thing for kind of Montbellew to step things up a level now this weekend.
It does. It's a good opportunity, because being straight, I know the way the group has panned out, but I'd have Tuam as a top 6 team in the county. And if anyone played Tuam in the quarter final, they wouldn't want to meet Tuam. Cormac McWalter is very impressed with him. He's improved. I think he'll be highly involved this year. I'd say with Warwick, he's really filled out. He looks fit. He looks lean. He's had a good championship. I was impressed with him. Brian Mannion inside as well has been good. So Tuam are a really good side. So it's a really good, what would I say, nearly like a preliminary quarter final for Montbellew. They can let the shackles off. They can go and play, and knowing that they're effectively into the quarterfinals, but they'd obviously like to go on top of the group. So good opportunity for them to show that. But equally, Tuam are a very proud club, and like I said, I'd have them probably in the top 6. It's just the way the group has fallen. They've been a little bit unlucky the way the results have fallen. So they'll equally be out to try and get to 3 points and see what the other results do for them in terms of a preliminary quarter final. I'm not sure. I think as it stands, it looks, if Claregalway were to win and beat Dunmore, and Tuam were to beat Montbellew, that would put ourselves, Tuam and Dunmore on 3 points. So under the old system, Tuam would go through, and we're still actually operating the old system in Galway.
Yeah,
it wasn't communicated, I think, in time. So the score difference of all 4 games rather than the mini group. So Tuam would qualify. So they're still very live. And equally, if Tuam were to lose and Dunmore were to lose, we'd beat Dunmore on the head-to-head. So it's intriguing. It's interesting. Everyone has something to play for. So it has the makings of a right good double header. I know one is in Ballinasloe, one is in Tuam. They obviously have to be on at the same time. But you asked earlier, will we be tuned in? I'm sure a lot of our guys will be out watching either. And I'll be refreshing what's the score at home.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to be doing in that group. The phones will get ready, and I'm sure one of those games might be on the streaming service too. Not confirmed yet, honestly. But with Tuam as well, it's just been. They started really well against Claregalway. It looked like they were going to blow them out of the water. Finished really strongly against Steede. You were nearly kind of thinking, were they going to rescue something from that? And started so well against Dunmore. It's probably just been in patches for them really this year.
It has, yeah. They look very, very impressive against Claregalway, and like I touched on, Claregalway have been good, and I've been impressed. But if you looked after 20 minutes, Tuam had nearly blown them away. And I know they came back and got the 2 goals. I think Hennessy got the 2 goals for them, and they brought Claregalway right back into it. Claregalway haven't looked back since that. But yeah, it's been in patches against ourselves again. We started really well against them. There was quite a strong breeze into the town goal in Ballinasloe. But when they brought it back to level with 10 minutes to go, they probably would have been favourites to go on and win it, but they didn't. And at the end, we were probably unlucky not to we not to win it ourselves. We did a few chances too. So again, yeah, it's been patchy for them, and they'll probably be disappointed in terms of how the year has transpired. But that said, they're still not out of it. They're still very much live, and a win against Montpellier and other results going their way, they'll be in a preliminary quarter final. And again, would take a good team to beat them.
You mentioned there, I haven't watched the score already, but I think when it comes to Group 2, it's about having your calculators ready this weekend, because it's just absolute madness. Just the table first, Carfin are obviously qualified in top place on 8 points into the quarter final. Then this is where it gets complicated and it gets tight. So Bernard second on 4 points, Saltiller third on 4 points, Killannon then in fourth place on 3 points, Uhtred fifth on 3 points, and Calstrand then on the bottom at 2 points there. Just really kind of trying to avoid that relegation, but just with their score difference at the minute, they are up against it. But you couldn't write them off either this weekend. So the fixtures you have this weekend on Sunday are Kerfin and Berna and Hepburn at 4:30, Killannon and Calstrand in Pearse Stadium at 4:30, and Salthill and Uhtred in Mike Cullen at 4:30. As you mentioned there with Salthill, it's hard to believe last year's county finalists, tipped by many this year to get to probably the final and even win Frank Fox. Talk about tune fighting for their lives. Like it's do or die simply now for Salthill this weekend, and they're coming up against Uhtred, who are going to relish this as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting game. It's looking forward to that one. Like Uhtred have been knocking on the door, would be disappointed with their performance against Killannon. They'd be a side that you'd be sort of saying you wouldn't want to play. To be honest, they're very dynamic in terms of like they've like the Monaghan's are there, the Tierney's, like they have a lot of really good footballers, and but it's just that to try and develop that consistency of performance, and they just haven't. Because when they're at it, we played them a number of times in challenge games, and when they're at it, they're very hard to stop. They're quick running, they're good fielders, take scores. Niall Lee and up front, they're a really good side, and they'll give bags of it to Salthill, I'd say, next weekend.
What's happened with Salthill?
It's a difficult one. Last year, Salthill, and I think Mike Cullen would acknowledge, I'd say Salthill were the better team in the county final. Mike Cullen won it. I think Mike Cullen, I think they were the best team in the county last year, and they showed it by winning Connacht. But on that day, Salthill would have been disappointed not to win it. They were really up for it. They were really well tuned. They had a good structure in place, like John O'Mahony. They had Norman Costello, who would have good integration, good involvement with the minor successes, so would have been familiar with the young guys coming through, and then they had Finian Hanley and Sean Armstrong, so they had a really good backroom team in place and had their house in order. This year, it's hard to say. I think, and I find that when you have a lot of players involved in a county setup, it can be difficult for your club. And Salthill had like they had John Maher, an excellent year with Galway. You had Cathal Sweeney, you had Tomo, you had Robert Finnerty. I might be leaving someone out there, but they might have had more. But they had quite a yeah, Daniel O'Flaherty. Yeah, so they had 5 guys like that are probably their 5 main players, naturally enough. 5 pivotal players, and then they come back into a club team. And some might have come back, like Robert came back carrying an injury. I think Tomo picked up an injury. And when you're training consistently for 12 to 18 months without a break, a lot of those guys are playing Sigerson. And it can take its toll. It's difficult. Like they were playing right up to October last year in the club championship. John Maher and these guys would have gone straight in, I'd say, preparing for the Connacht League last year, and didn't get a break. And most of them, like I said, would have been involved in Sigerson as well. So I'd say the bodies were tired. They came back in then, and they had some injuries. Robert Finnerty picked up a knock in the first game, I think. And then you had Tomo hasn't been available. Garage Armstrong has been injured as well. So I don't think they've had a fluid run, and that you're sort of being hit week on week with tough games, and like a local derby against Barna last week or 2 weekends ago. Barna came, they were well tuned, and Salthill just didn't have the answer for them last weekend. But that said, if they can get through Uhtred, if I was to predict, I'd be thinking Salthill. If their big guys show up, their Finnerties, their Tom O'Callaghan's up front. If John Maher wins his battle in the middle of the field, I'd be expecting Salthill to win it, to go to 5, and they're in a quarter final then. Or to go to 6, sorry, and they're in a quarter final then. And in a quarter final, then really Salthill would, irrespective of how their form was in the group, they're still in a quarter final, and they'd fancy taking out any of the other teams, you know, and it could be a good time to play one of the bigger teams in a quarter final. But it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, a lot to play for next weekend. And on the other hand, then if Uachtarard go and they go to 5 points, if they go to if we take the Corofin, potentially will beat Barna, which I expect they will. Not discounting Barna, but Corofin have beaten all 4 teams in the group, and I'd expect they'll go to 10. I'd be predicting Clannan to beat Carlastrand, they'll go to 5. So then if Salthill were to win, they'd go to 6, they go to 2nd, Clannan would be 3rd. If Uachtarard were to win, Clannan will go to 2nd and Uachtarard to 3rd, because obviously the head-to-head with Clannan and Uachtarard. So there's a lot of dynamics there, a lot of different permutations, but and an awful lot to play for.
It really feels like whoever wins between Salthill and Uachtarard, their season can really get going from here on in.
It can. There's great potential on both sides. Like as I said, a lot of the Salthill guys were involved with the county. They've won under 20s, won minors. Would have been, like I said, disappointed not to have won the county title last year. But like having tipped away nice and steadily through, Salthill won't care about their form in the group. If they're in a quarter final, like I said, they'll be still, in my eyes, be considered top 3, or definitely in the top 3 or 4. And if they are, it'll take a good team to beat them. And any of the top 2 or 3 or 4 in any given day can probably beat each other if the tactics and a little bit of rub of the green going either way, you can win. And signs on last year against Moycullen and Salthill, I'd say all the pundits would have predicted Moycullen to win it, and Salthill were unlucky not to win it. I have to be careful with my predictions. I remember a few years ago you asked me Moycullen or Mountbellew, and I felt Mountbellew might win it, but anytime I meet David Wynne, he's always saying, "You went for Mountbellew that day," but so I have to be careful with what I say, but always a bit of crack with winning.
Good. And just on that, because the Salthill Uachtarard game, it definitely feels like the biggest game in that group, but you nearly expect Uachtarard, like we all know the way they set up, they're difficult to break down. They basically don't like to make it comfortable for you, but that's the way they play. But I actually think they're probably going to look at Barna and take a lot from Barna's game plan against Salthill, because on 2 occasions this year Barna have beaten Salthill in the league final, and particularly the last round. So they're going to set up with a similar pattern, and I think the answer to this will be, have Salthill figured out how to break down a system like this or not over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, Barna were very disciplined, to be fair. Look, they had a good game plan, very disciplined, hard to break down. And then O'Callaghan at 11 was really impressive. I thought he was good. He sort of dictated affairs from 11. He was very, very impressive. So like that, having a really structured, disciplined structure, and then guys to be able to pick holes up the other end and take your scores. And that's what Barna did. They got their frees, they scored them, they got the few chances, they took them, and Uachtarard will be looking to do something similar. That said, Uachtarard, in a way, will be probably going into it expecting to be able to take Salthill. So on that basis, I'm not so sure how rigid they'll be structure-wise. They might have more of a confidence to go and beat Salthill, which might be potentially to their detriment. I'm not sure, whereas Barna would have set up rigidly with a plan of how to beat them. Uachtarard maybe have a bit some more, hard to say, like traditionally you wouldn't have seen Uachtarard set up with that defensive structure, so it'd be interesting to see how they adapt. But that said, like you touched on, I think that defensive structure is a way of trying to nullify Salthill's influence, and it'll be interesting how Alan Murphy approaches it, because he obviously has the footballers to be able to go toe to toe with Salthill. But a shootout with Salthill is probably not, percentage wise, isn't I don't think the best option, but it'll be interesting to see how they approach it.
Just on Barna there, because we're talking about them, they're playing Kirpin this weekend, 4:30 in Hertford, as I mentioned as well, on Sunday. they're kind of nearly hoping here that Carfin might rotate this squad a bit, might have kind of one eye on the quarterfinal, but then Barna on a lot of occasions, like, they weren't given a chance the last day, and they know if they win, they go through.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like Carfin, I think of Carfin and Cullen are the only two teams that guaranteed top their groups. I think, and it'll be interesting whether they rotate. Carfin have the luxury of being able to do it, and they have the players and the depth to be able to do it too, because they've intermediate, they've a very strong 30, I'd say, you know. On the other hand, then Barna, yeah, they're still very active, very live. They've earned the right to be in the conversation. They went out and bet Salthill and deserved to win that game. They were really, really good, to be fair, well organised, like we said, and took their chances. Sean Fitzgerald, really good the last year, I thought, carried the ball very well out of the attack. Keane Hernan, really good year with Galway, and can have a big say next weekend as well in exchanges, and James Kane in goal as well. So they have three inter-county players, and then, like I touched on, the few forwards up front. Gormley is busy. You have O'Cool as well as there. Ryan Folan came off the bench. So again, they won't fear Carfin, and definitely not a Carfin who qualified and potentially might be rotating a little bit. Barna have a lot to play for. They're on 4 points, and just touching on, if they went to six, they all of a sudden they're in the conversation and they've qualified. Yeah, they've qualified. They'll go to second ahead of if Salthill were to win. It's just so many calculations and so many permutations. You have to assume there could be draws there or anything, but they're very much into. All Barna can do is go out and try to beat Carfin. The structure and the system they had the last year was very, very good. If Salthill were going out against Carfin, they'd fancy beating them. Barna have beaten Salthill, so the structure, the setup, the system was effective. Be interesting to see how they try and what type of structure they deploy. And if they go out, like I said, and if they get a draw and go to 5 points, or take a win and go to 6, they're right in the conversation and could be full value for a quarter-final place.
Yeah, terrific job.
Equally, like Carlos Fran are under a little bit of pressure, but equally, if they lose, they're under pressure then. So that's the beauty of these groups, that they're very, very live, very much in the melting pot. So it makes for intriguing viewing next weekend.
Killannon then are in a really strong position, it's safe to say. If they beat Calishan, then there's a strong possibility that they're going to go through, because just with Calishan's tournament, when getting 4 points against Carfin, losing players this year, they just seem to be a team that's kind of really lacking confidence at the minute. Killannon are coming into this one at a huge victory over their neighbours, but the only thing really here that can put, if you're just looking at it, if Killannon were to win and put them out of the championship, what could happen is if Barna were to beat Carfin and Salthill were to beat Uachtarard, both of those would be on 6 and Killannon would be on 5. So they have to hope that, well, basically their main focus will be focus on their own game first, get the results, and then hope that one of those teams don't win.
Yeah, Killannon will be looking to win the game to go to 5, hoping that Barna don't win, or don't win, and Salthill. Yeah, so but ultimately, like, going into the last round, your prerogative is in any game is to win your game, and then focus on the other results. Then, if you don't win, you're not in the conversation anyway. So, Killannon again will need to be on their guard. Like, they're coming on the back of a really good win against Uachtarard. Again, that was a local derby. Local derby, sometimes form can go out the window, and like they can be nervy, tentative affairs, and different personalities can step up and in local derbies. And that was the case 2 weeks ago. Patrick Sweeney, like at full forward, was outstanding, and like he'd know the Uachtarard lads, they'd know him, they'd know his form, and sometimes that can get the most out of some players, and equally it can the pressure can get to other players, because they're big games. I was there last Saturday in the stadium. I left briefly before that game to go, but I was there for the Salthill and Barna. But the amount of people from Uachtarard and Killannon that were coming in, and it was great to see the rapport and the camaraderie amongst their supporters that were coming in. And there's great good atmosphere there, like between them. They're like next door neighbours, but obviously for the 60 minutes they were on opposite sides. But it's great to see the atmosphere that was there. But like that, them local derbies can get a lot out of some players, and some players can feel the pressure, and as was the case last weekend or 2 weeks ago. But going back to your question, yeah, Killannon would need to be careful too. They're coming on the back of a really big win for the parish. They bet Mike Cullen as well in the 19th, so they're flying as a club. They're really on a high. They're going really, really well. Carlastrand turned over Uachtarard, and a lot of the pundits would have said that was a
Uachtarard turned over Ben.
Which?
Strand turned over Barna in the game in Tune Stadium.
Oh, bet Barna.
Yeah.
I thought it was Uachtarard. Sorry, I thought they bet Uachtarard. Yeah. So again, yeah. So you just have to be weary. They're like Barna have shown that they're well capable of beating, like we saw the bets all till last week. Like the Carlastrand, there could be a sting in them. Tommy Joyce is over them. They'll be fit to be well organised. They won't go down fight without a fight. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a kick in them. So that's like I'm saying that Killannon and Carlastrand are never easily bet. They're a very proud footballing club, and are never, like I said, irrespective of what form they're in or how they're going, they're never easy bet. So it'll be a big game for Killannon too. And Killannon are the young side as well. A lot of their young players, and traditionally Carlastrand are physical, lawless in midfield. He's a good player, good primary ball winner, and Ronan Keneally then inside is busy. So again, it'll be a tricky one for Killannon, but that said, I expect that they'll build on the win against Uachtarard and should win again next weekend.
Yeah, that's Group 2, where there's just so many permutations and so much at stake. So you won't really be able to tell how that group's going to figure itself out until all those games are brought to a conclusion. Then just Group 1, you have Annadown and Mike Cullen in Pearse Stadium at 5:15 on Saturday, Spiddle and Leicester Moor and Rossmuck at 2 o'clock on Sunday, and Milltown and St. James in Tune Stadium at 4:30. It's a difficult one if you're a Mike Cullen or Annadown player this weekend. Nothing at stake for either side.
Yeah, the way it's fallen, it looks like Mike Cullen are going to top the group, and Annadown will most likely.
Annadown are out. They can't finish.
Yeah, they're falling into the 4th place, I think. So they're in the no man's land, and they're literally not in relegation, or they're not. They're neither in relegation nor progress. So yeah, it's a game with nothing to play for ultimately, you know. But still, that said, I'd expect Mike Cullen will use it as an opportunity to maybe see some additional players that they'll probably need for later in the championship. So we'll use this as an opportunity. Mike Cullen's squad is very strong. They've good depth in it. So they'll probably most likely use it to rotate and to see if one or two other guys put their hand up for a quarter-final place or appearance. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's probably a game where you might expect now to see Sean Kelly and Peter Cook and these players come back in. On Spiddale versus Leicester Moor, it's just kind of who finishes ahead of who. Both are going into relegation regardless. But then the big game really here in Group 1, where it's the big one to really talk about. Milltown St. James is both on 6 points. Whoever wins will ultimately finish as the highest second place across the senior championship. So that's why there's so much at stake for these teams, because ultimately they avoid the top 3 in the quarterfinal, and it's probably a realistic chance both field then of getting to the last 4.
Yeah, so I'd expect, I'm not sure how it works, but Mike Cullen are obviously top. They're into a quarterfinal. Corofin are top. Looks like Montbellew will most likely top Group 3. So that's 3 seeded teams, and the winner of this game will be the 4th seeded team. But equally, the loser of this game will most likely be the
Well, you could have goal difference if
oh yeah, sorry, no, the winner of this will most likely be a best third of Group 1 and 2, so they'll be in a quarterfinal as well. And the loser or the third place in Group 3 will most likely face the third place in Group 2 will play third place in Group 3. So it looks like the 6 points will be enough to be the best place, third place, bring them into of 1 and 2 and bring them into a quarterfinal. Yeah. So again, a very, very interesting game. Milltown and James. Milltown have been impressive, and so James as Barry Downey has come in there over them and has got a real good tune out of them. I know Darrell Leonard is over them, and there's been good feedback. He's involved locally with schools. There's been good feedback on his input in terms of his tactics, the preparation he's putting into the side. And Barry has been involved for years. I know he brought Cartoon, I think, to a county final a number of years ago. He's a shrewd coach and a good guy, and has obviously done a lot. On the other hand, Milltown would have been disappointed last year to exit the way in which they did. They won their first 2 rounds and would have been probably expecting to progress to a quarter final and didn't. I think Jennings, Jarlath
Jennings from AO.
Jarlath Jennings, yeah, from Ballinrobe. So he's involved and over them. So again, guy with a lot of football knowledge as well, and seems to be getting a good tune out of them. Milltown are they're around a while, that team. A lot of good young guys coming through, the likes of Costello, the likes of Mannion, Curran as well in the backs. They're a good side, and some of those Mannions, Costellos, Currans, they've been around now for 4 or 5 years, so they're not young anymore. So they're expected to bring it to the next level. I always find Milltown are a difficult team to beat in Championship. They'll always stay in it. They'll stay there, and
they're never bet either.
Which?
They're never bet either.
No, they're not. And the ability then, up front, I find with Milltown is Michael Martin and Hare are really good free takers. And they'll pick away, they'll chip away, and they play to their strengths. They really remind me of Killearn when they were good. They play to their strengths. They'll get in these channels, they'll force the free because they know they have free takers to nail the frees. I remember before Porrick and Nicky, they used to play to their strengths, and they were class at it. Porrick inside and Nicky equally. Milltown are very, very similar. They'll play to their strengths, and a very difficult team to beat in Championship. They'll generally, you'll do well to break even with them in midfield. They'll have Cathal Blake in there, Damien Brennan. They're good. So that'll be an interesting battle now in the middle of the field with Paul Conroy. I'm not sure who will join Paul, whether it'll be Aaron Connolly. Sam O'Neill, yeah. Well, Sam O'Neill, again, came in with Porrick Joyce this year, and himself and his brother have been really good additions to St. James's. They're right good players. And again, I touched on Conal Gallagher in our own club. I'd say Sam O'Neill will, while he was involved in the periphery of the panel, I'd expect we'll see him having game time next year with Galway. So that's a really big sector, and it's not overplaying the midfield, and I know I touched on it previously in other encounters, but this is another game there where I would say that sector is really, really important, because Milltown have really good forwards inside. Michael Barton, Costello, Mannion, they'll pick you off if they get good ball. Equally, if Paul Conroy gets on top and Sam O'Neill, Paul Conroy give him good ball into his forwards inside. Jack Nolan has been really, really good, really good addition for them this year. He's picking off a lot of scores. Owen Cannon has hit some form. He's back. I see Dave O'Connell is back playing as well, involved in some capacity. So again, they've, like I touched on with Montpellier, James seem to have a lot of their go-to guys back there, and a nice blend of young guys around them, like with the O'Neills, Nolan, and it'll be interesting. I think James Egan in goal as well. Yeah, so they have a good blend there, and it'll be a really, really interesting game.
Who's going to win it?
Which?
Who's going to win it?
Who's going to win it? Just before an important part, and I didn't check this. Where is the game on?
Tuam Stadium.
Tuam. Yeah, Tuam I think gives an advantage to Milltown. I think it gives an advantage to Milltown. It's going to be a tight game. I'd say that it'll be interesting to see the spread in it. I'd say they'll be very evenly paired, evenly matched. Who's going to win it? I'm going to go. I think Tuam gives a little bit of an advantage to Milltown, but that said, I've been impressed with the progress of St. James's. I think they've done well this year. There seems to be a bit of confidence there. I've been impressed with Jack Nolan, like I touched on. Owen Cannon is back playing well. Paul Conroy's obviously, you know what you're going to get with Paul. The midfield battle is going to be big. If Paul and Sam can come out on top and get enough ball inside, the likes of Owen Cannon, Jack Nolan, think maybe James's could edge it, but that's who I'd be thinking. But that said, it could go either way. As I say, midfield, if Brennan and Blake get on top and get enough quality ball into Martin, Hare, Costello and Mannion, they'd be fancying their chance. But if you were to force me, I'd go with maybe a narrow win for St James's, but just based on their motion. I think they're motoring well. But either way, like I touched on, both teams are in a quarter final. So if you ask either sets of teams at the start of the year if they're in a quarter final, they'd take it, and both are, I think, per my calculations, they look like they should be, and a good season for both of those. But that said, I'd say they'll want to be seeded, and being seeded gives you a great opportunity of getting to a semi-final. So it's all to play for. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, it's a massive occasion for both.
Who's reffing it?
I'm not actually sure here now. Let's see, can we get it as we speak? It's, as I mentioned, that Midtown and James's game is 4:30 Tune Stadium Sunday, and James Malloy's reffing it.
Okay. Yeah,
I think he kept on his toes there, anyways.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. Some like it's refs an important aspect to games, because some refs let more go than others, and like a more physical team like Milltown would probably prefer a ref that lets more go, and because they do play on the edge and they're physical and that's their style, versus maybe a younger St James's side. So no, I'd say Jamesy would be keeping well on top of it. Obviously, his inter-county standards. So again. And he's city ref, North Board venue, which is it's good to see, because sometimes you see a North Board venue can be way too own. That's not to say a ref will impact it, but it does sometimes have a bearing on it.
Just then on the intermediate prelims, so on Sunday you have two games at 2:45. You have Brennan's and Clifton in Pearse Stadium, and then you have Micheál Brannocks and Williamstown at 2:45, and then on Saturday you have Calcher and Gabriel's in Dublin Park, and Corton then and Oranmore Mary. Corton Shamrocks and Oranmore Mary is probably the game of the weekend, and I think there's intrigue now with Corton every game to play to see will Johnny Glynn play. Obviously he togged out in their last game but didn't play any part, but there's intrigue now for everyone Galway supporter to see will he line up for Corton this weekend.
Yeah, that is definitely Corton or more looks to be the pick of the games. It'll be an interesting one. Oranmore again have been building good underage structures. The population of Oranmore has been increasing. Facilities infrastructure is improving, and probably would have been disappointed in recent years. They would have been knocking on the door. Corton, on the other hand, would have come down in recent years and would be looking to come back up. So we're looking to come back up to the senior conversation. Look, just purely on experience, again from experience of playing Corton, they were always never an easy team to play. Corton, I always found them. You'd earn a win against Corton, and just based on their experience of maybe more experience at senior level, I'd be thinking that they'll edge that one.
Calcher and Gabriel's is obviously a local derby that's on in Dublin Park after the Claregalway Dunmore game. Calcher have probably been one of the impressive teams out of the kind of top four. They've been really kind of boosted by the two Manions coming back this year playing for them.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to touch on the Manions, and again, Caltra, proud footballing club. We would feel that they have a lot to offer at senior if they were to rebuild and get up there. And I'd say they're in a rebuilding process, and probably would see themselves as maybe in the top four of intermediate football, and with a bit of luck, maybe are going definitely in the right direction. Definitely a good sign to see the two Manions involved. They wouldn't be involved if they didn't feel that they were competitive at intermediate. And signs on in the group phases, they were impressive and done very well. Again, a local derby, but on the form that we've seen today, I'd be predicting Caltra to win that one.
Just a man who's involved in the Caltra backroom team, Niall Coyne. Obviously, seen he's done a lot of work with Charlotte. You would have played with him. he was with Caltra last year, but obviously you mentioned this year now with the Mannions back. They definitely are boosted with a stronger squad. But what would he bring to Caltra?
Niall, he'd be probably obviously close with Michael Meehan, would have been involved with Jarlath's. He'd bring great knowledge of the game, a great experience. Like Niall would have played at the top level, would have won an under-21 All-Ireland. I'm not sure did he win a Sigerson with the UCG in 2003, but really experienced guy, thinks a lot about the game, and like I touched on, a great knowledge of it. And having a guy of his experience and his knowledge coming into coach gives a great endorsement of the structures that are in place, that he wouldn't be coming in there to make up the numbers in intermediate. I'd say Niall would have fairly, and he'd be an ambitious guy in terms of his coaching, takes it very serious. Like I touched on, great knowledge of the game, great servant for Galway, his club Carna. He'd bring a great understanding, great experience, and I'd say there'd be very good structures in place there, and signs on. They've been impressive this year, full value for the quarter-final, and will be hoping to be well involved later into the championship.
Then just the two other prelims on Sunday. Micheál Brannach's coming up against Williamstown. Brannach's are coming into this one on the back of a defeat for Kilconnelly, where it was ultimately whoever won topped the group and got straight into quarter final. They came up short. Williamstown stunned on Carrua in the last round, but Micheál Brannach are still big contenders for this intermediate championship. You might just feel a little bit too much here.
I think so, yeah. Micheál Brannach are a good side. Again, touching on it, and I touch on it quite a bit, that senior experience, and it stands to teams in intermediate, in tight games. Williamstown, on the other hand, Gary Kelly up front, obviously a serious operator, serious player. Like Micheál Brannach will need to curtail and nullify his influence. Williamstown, again, never easily bet, but Micheál Brannach, and will take a lot from beating Carrow or seasoned senior outfit. Probably came down and maybe are in a rebuilding phase, and sometimes can take a while to reset when you do go down to intermediate, and I'd expect they'll be back stronger next year in terms of once they establish their status in intermediate. I expect they'll be back strong and give it a right cut next year. But yeah, Micheál Brannach's good side, some good players. I know they had Mike, they had one guy involved, I know, the seniors set up. Yeah, so again, like having guys like that at that level playing into county at the level Galway are at, he'll be a really pivotal influence on their team, and having someone like that up front and maybe getting their fair share in the middle of the pitch with, like, Vinton is obviously great experience there, and they've good Sean Denver. I'm not sure if he's involved at the moment, but again has that experience, and I'd say those guys should carry enough to take them over the line and bring them into a quarter final.
Finally, then, the last prelim, Brendan's Clifton, probably similar to Cortin or more. Won't be much between these two.
No, yeah, Clifton were unlucky not to progress to the All-Ireland Junior final last year. Good win last time out against Corvin, and Corvin are Corvin at any level are strong, at any level of senior, be it intermediate or junior, are strong. I think it might have been it was their second team, their intermediate side. So they bet them and were full value for that win. Will take a lot of confidence from that. On the other hand, Brendan's have been probably building in intermediate over the course of the last few years, and have been at the quarter-final, semi-final stage, and have been knocking on the door. So look, I'd say Clifton went up last year, have sort of consolidated now their status in intermediate for another year. They'll be happy. Ray Hogan is over them. He's a good coach. He'll be happy that they have. We'll have a right cut at Brendan's, but on form over the course of the last number of years, and Brendan's have built, I'd be thinking Brendan's might just edge that one.
Just on the relegation then, the both games take place on Saturday. You have Carrow and Kirklandbeak, Killearn and Kilkerran. It's very hard to fathom or understand how some of these teams have found themselves in intermediate relegation. Yeah,
they're like Corvin aside, like Corvin are obviously a powerhouse of a club, but the other four are like had serious pedigree at senior level. Killearn and Kilkerran, Clonberne, and equally Ancarua would have obviously won at 95, but I think they were one of, after Killearn were relegated, Carrow were the longest serving senior team in the top top tier. So again, the first game, I'd be hoping that Carrow could win that game. Corofin, it's their second team, and it'd be disappointing to see the Carrow go down to junior. I know I think they still have another opportunity, but I'd be thinking, look, it's Corofin's second team. It's Carrow's first team. I think Carrow are good value for their intermediate status, and I'd always say, irrespective of who the club is, when someone's second team is involved, you'd have to think that the Carrow's second team, your heart would start to be going for them, and that's in that regard, and that's it. And I think if they could get over this, it's a blip. A lot of teams slip into relegation. I know a few years ago in senior, even Tuam were very close to it. I think they were in a preliminary relegation tie and obviously got out of it and nearly won the championship the next year against Corofin. But I think if Carrow can survive, they'll actually build on it, and you'd see them. We'll have a bigger say in the intermediate championship next year. The other game then is a really tight game as well, like Killare.
Both they're joined up at underage level.
Yeah, and yeah, it's mad to think. I know when I was we were with the college a few years ago, and we were intermediate at St. Michael's, and we had some great games at Killare, and equally at St. Michael's we'd always some ding dong games at Killare, and there's some side and some history in that club, and they'll want to win that. But equally, Kilcarn, Clonberne as well. It's crazy to think both teams will be a game away from relegation. But if I was to predict over the course of the two games and the final, I'd be thinking Carrow should win their game, and then I'd be thinking the loser of the second game should have enough for Corofin's second team, and then Corofin.
It's a round robin series there.
Oh, the round robin. Okay, if the round.
Ultimately, like the senior, it's the top two are safe here and the bottom two are safe. So really, if you lose a game straight away, you're kind of under pressure.
The bottom two go down, is it?
Yeah, because there'll be two coming down from senior then.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then one will be going up from intermediate, and one will be coming up from junior. So that'll be how it works there. So ultimately, you're going to see one.
Like you're going to have one. Like you're going to have one of Killare and Kilcarn, Clonberne or Carrow in junior football next year. It's crazy to think that. Look, it can happen. Teams can slip down. Like Clifton went down last year. They came back up. Clonberne have been up and down as well. I know they went and won the intermediate junior All Ireland as well. So sometimes for a club though that are building, and like you said, Kilcarn, Clonberne and Killare are joined up at underage. Sometimes if you're rebuilding a young structures within a club, it might be a good place to be able to do that and bring young guys through and at a more competitive level, and then come up to intermediate when you're competitive, because no one wants to be in relegation of any tournament. You want to be at the action end, be it the junior or intermediate championship. You prefer to be competing at junior rather than being in the bottom of intermediate. So look, as I said, I know the stress of relegation ourselves. We've been involved in it a lot at St. Michael's a number of years, and it's stressful for a club. So just look, wish all the teams the best in it, because it's not a place you want to be, and it's stressful, and it can be quite difficult to get back up as well. I always say, like with senior, you probably need to lose 5 or 6 games to go down to intermediate, but you probably need to win 6 to go up to senior. So it's very difficult to get back up if you do go down. So look, to all teams involved this weekend, I know everyone's involved, but there some looking at higher places than others, but it's an intriguing weekend of action, and I hope I'll be turning down your request in 2 weeks' time, because I've told you I don't like doing these when I'm involved myself, so hence why you got me this weekend.
Yeah, no, so no club really wants to be involved in that relegation. Just briefly on how the juniors working at the minute. Nella are into the Northboard final. They play the winner of Hepford at Athenry, who are in the Northboard semi this weekend, and then ultimately then the West Clonberne are in the final, and they play the winners of Castle and Father Griffin's Aero this weekend. Just finally then, Eddie, and news there emerged overnight that one of Abbey's, James Mannion, has put himself forward for the Galway minor job. I was chatting to myself last night, but he's put together
serious veteran. Yeah, yes.
team. You look, Ciara McGrath, obviously formerly Carafin, and Gary Moore, Barry Downey, St James's senior football manager, Fico Vera, who's still playing with Micheál Brannocks, Mark Rowan, who's still playing with Claregalway, and who's just lost strength and conditioning. Like that's
it's a serious backroom team, and I commend James for getting that structure in place around him. It'll be interesting. I know there's other candidates going for the role, but I saw even with Alan Glynn, like the structures and the professionalism that he's brought to that minor structure, he's brought it to a new level over the course of the last 4 years, obviously winning in All Ireland. So whoever takes over from Alan is taken over in a really, really good place. Like I touched on, Galway are competitive at minor level and are right in the conversation. You wouldn't always have said that, and they are. So just again to say well done to James for the team and the management structure that he's put in place, like Ciara McGrath, Barry Downey, like you said, Neil O'Toole. I think there was one more I'm missing there as well.
Vera and Mark Rowan.
Yeah, and Mark Rowan is coach and development officer with Salt Hill, so real good knowledge of the and has studied that as well. So again, a really impressive coaching structure. So I look, it'll be interesting. He'll be right in the mix for it. I don't know when the closing date for nominations is, but he's right in the mix, and it's good to see guys putting teams like that together and bringing it to the fore, because like I said, we're right in the conversation. Won the All Ireland 2 years ago, and we should hopefully be right in the conversation again this year, and it's only good for God to see the likes of James, young coach, coming with that enthusiasm and bringing it to the top table. So best wishes to him.
Yeah, it's believed as well that Neil McHugh from Carrickfergus is going to be one of the other candidates moving forward. I haven't heard of anything else. That interview process takes place next week, and ultimately whoever gets the job will be taken over from Alan Glynn, who did terrific work with the Galway Miners as well over the last 3 years. But it's a bumper weekend of club action this weekend.
A quick one as well, because I have to wish my own club, St Michael's. They're actually unusually in the North Board Junior A final.
How did Michael's end up in the North Board?
Which?
How did Michael's end up in the North Board?
Just the way the draw worked out. I think they were short team in the North, so we happily volunteered. I don't know how the structure worked, but no, they've a really good team there. Like you've the likes of Frank Daly, of Greg Rogan up front, you have Harry Brown, Darren Sinton, really strong junior team there, and that's our second team now. So we were unlucky to lose to Tuam last year in the county final. So they're coming again. So to wish Mike Hughes and his troops the best of luck in Tuam on Saturday evening. So it's a good opportunity. Whoever wins that, then I think I'm not sure. I think Killannon and are playing someone Killannon and Carroll in the other side. So again, it's a great opportunity for all four teams to progress and win a county title. So I'd have to have the blue jersey on Saturday and wish the lads the best.
Yeah, that game was obviously after Montpellier and Tuam on Saturday between Michaels and Clint's. So definitely a game to stay on for. Michaels will be looking to pick up a bit of silverware in there. But that's all we have time for on our show for today. We'll be back next week with a review of all the club action, where we'll have the quarterfinalists in the senior and intermediate championship confirmed. But that's all for today. Thanks a million to Eddie for coming on.